Welcome to Marketplace Tech Bytes, our weekly review of some of the biggest stories making headlines across the industry. I'm Stephanie Hughes. This week, Google lands an AI deal with the Pentagon. Taylor Swift trademarks her voice and image. And Japan Airlines to introduce humanoid robots to help with baggage. Joining me to talk about this is our regular contributor, Maria Curi from Axios. Hey, Maria.
Hey, Stephanie. Thank you for having me.
Always a pleasure. And so we are going to start with our bite of the week. This is one number that gives you a hint of something that went on this week in the tech industry. Maria, what is your bite?
So my number is 70. That's the number of companies and organizations that Anthropic wants to provide Mythos, its most powerful AI model yet. So far, they have given access to about 50 companies, and they want to expand it to about 120. So, really expanding who has access to its most powerful model.
Yeah. Okay. And let's get started by talking about AI models. So another company, Google, has landed a deal with the Pentagon to let its artificial intelligence models be used for classified work. A Google spokesperson told us in a statement that the company is proud to be providing its services for national security purposes, and that it believes the AI should not be used for, quote, domestic mass surveillance or autonomous weaponry without appropriate human oversight. Maria, what is different about Google's deal compared to the ones with other AI companies?
So Google's deal is being described as more permissive because it is being compared to OpenAI's deal. And in the OpenAI deal, the company essentially has said that it has full discretion over its safety stack, whereas in the Google deal, they are going to be collaborating with the Pentagon when it comes to those safety mechanisms. And so that difference in language is what's leading people to think that Google's deal is not as strong. But at the end of the day, Stephanie, all of these contracts, I think, are experts actually say are subject to potential loopholes and workarounds because the law has not actually caught up with artificial intelligence. And you have folks over on Capitol Hill trying to figure out how to modernize those laws as we speak.
Yeah, you've been reporting on this. You've been reporting on whether these deals could actually spur Congress to create new rules. How likely do you think that is?
So what I have been hearing is that there has been renewed interest just in recent months with the release of Mythos, which is Anthropic's most powerful AI model. A lot more lawmakers are worried about what technology this powerful can mean for society, and they're moving more quickly to potentially include something in the National Defense Authorization Act later this year. That being said, it is still Congress. They are slow to move and to get enough consensus around one issue or another when it comes to AI in an election year, especially, is going to be an uphill climb.
To go back to Google for a second, a number of the company's employees pushed back against this deal, saying they don't want to see AI used in harmful ways. And that kind of worker protest has happened before at Google. And it made me wonder, why do you think this time we're seeing the company move forward despite resistance from its workers?
I think that the fact that OpenAI is already in there providing these services, cat's out of the bag. Google is facing competitive pressure with other labs. And at the end of the day, the Pentagon is a major customer. And, worker pushback and employee pushback, I don't know if they can overcome that aspect of it all.
One thing I've been struggling with is why the Department of Defense might want to turn over some of these very high stakes decisions to a computer. What dynamic do you think is at play there?
Well, I think that whether a computer is more or less effective, precise in wars and combat zones is still very much up for debate. The technology is progressing. I think the conventional wisdom right now is that there should be a human in the loop, regardless. But we do see the technology advancing in some ways that it might be more precise and accurate than humans, and that's what the Pentagon's thinking might be around this.
Yeah. Okay, we are going to move to our next story. There is going to be a bit of a tonal shift just to prepare everybody. To get into this, I want to play a little bit of music. Look what you made me do. Look what you made me do. Look what you just made me do. Look what you just made me do. Look what you made me do. That's Taylor Swift, of course. And what she did was file several trademark applications with the US government late last week. Two are of her voice speaking, one is an image of her from the Eras tour. And we wrote to Taylor Swift's lawyers to ask why she filed the applications. We didn't hear back in time. And Maria, I thought it might be helpful to remind myself of the definition of a trademark. According to the US government, it's any word, phrase, symbol, or design that identifies your goods or services. It's how customers recognize you in the marketplace and distinguish you from competitors. Some recognizable trademarks are like the Golden Arches for McDonald's, the Nike swoosh. So, with that in mind, what do you think Taylor Swift is doing here?
I think she's getting creative with the law, given that there is no actual law in place right now to account for AI and image and likeness. And so, to back up a little bit, this is something that Matthew McConaughey started experimenting with, and his trademark, all right" line is something that we all
Classic.
associate him with. And now Taylor Swift is doing this as well. Making this about trademarks would give her greater legal ground to take action against any potential infringement at the federal level. There are state level right of publicity laws in place. This would provide a federal mechanism. And so that's what we're observing, artists getting creative, given that at the federal level, there is no new law to account for this.
Yeah, a trademark lawyer, Josh Gerben, was the first to notice these applications. He wrote on his blog, he pointed out this is happening at a time when artists have to deal with AI generating pictures and videos of them in ways they didn't necessarily authorize. So, yeah, do you think these trademarks could be used to help protect against AI?
It's certainly better than nothing. And, Taylor Swift in particular has been subject to pornographic images and has also just disinformation around the elections, if we all recall, when there was disinformation going around about her supporting President Trump in the election.
Hmm.
And so these are the kinds of things that artists are dealing with, but it's not just artists, it's also child sexual abuse material, non consensual intimate imagery for average people, and these types of deep fakes where there is limited legal recourse. One thing that we're tracking here in DC is the No Fakes Act. And, recently, earlier this month, there were a bunch of artists on Capitol Hill pushing for this new law. Again, this is something that's going to get stuck in the weeds. There's a lot of free speech concerns around it, that this would have a chilling effect against parody and other types of speech with artists. But at the federal level, there is some work being done.
I want to play one of the trademark applications of Taylor Swift's voice. Here it is.
Hey, it's Taylor. My brand new album, The Life of a Showgirl, is out on October 3rd.
So, Maria, it's the very beginning of that, hey, it's Taylor that she's trademarking. By doing this, the trademark lawyer Gerben says it's possible Swift could file a lawsuit over an AI that reproduces or imitates her voice. And it made me wonder, do you think how much more of this kind of trademarking could we see from other celebrities?
I could see a trend picking up here, especially if this does end up being successful in court. It's a totally new legal theory that hasn't been tested out yet. But I wonder if it even needs to go that far. We saw last year when Google sent a cease and desist letter over to Disney over its trademarked images being used. And the next day, Disney took them all down, or Google took them all down, I should say.
Right. Disney. Yeah, that makes sense. Um, yeah. How do you think AI companies are going to respond to this?
I think AI companies are going to try to avoid this type of litigation and new laws being put on the books in the congressional level. In the meantime, litigation is lengthy; it takes time to play out, and immediate action may not necessarily be that big of a threat where companies are held liable in the near term.
Okay, let's move to our last story. Japan Airlines is introducing humanoid robots to help with baggage. So, the Japanese airline said it's launching a 2-year experiment where it'll incorporate human type robots into its ground handling operations. That includes loading and unloading bags onto planes, as well as cleaning the airplane cabin. Maria, what do you make of this?
Well, I think that it is, a response to Japan's shrinking workforce. They're dealing with an aging population and less workers being available to do these types of jobs. It is important to note, too, that humans are still conducting safety operations in this work. And so the humanoid robots aren't fully taking over these types of jobs. But it's not just that there isn't enough of a workforce to do this. It's also a lot more people going to Japan for tourism. 7 million people in the first 2 months of this year. It's a lot of pressure on that system that technology is helping alleviate.
The airline says that by basically plopping in these robots that move kind of like humans, they don't have to rethink how the whole airport functions. And it made me wonder, are there other kinds of jobs we could see human type robots like plopped into?
Factory work, right? So we
Mm.
see a lot of Amazon warehouses already employing this type of technology. But to be honest, this technology is not that advanced. The dexterity of these robots are still limited. And so, sometimes when we think of having these humanoid robots in our homes, for example, doing our laundry or cleaning our homes, the technology is simply not there yet, and there's a far ways to go.
Yeah. And as you pointed out, Japan does have an aging population. That's one of the reasons it's looking to robots. And it kind of made me wonder, is this sort of experiment something we could also see here where our population is also getting older?
Yeah, I think it depends on the sector and the types of jobs that we're
Yeah.
talking about. The United States also has workforce shortages, in particular when it comes to people who have STEM degrees. For these more blue collar jobs, there actually is more concern over jobs being displaced. We hear politicians like Bernie Sanders talking about it all the time, and labor unions talking about it all the time, that they're worried they're going to lose their jobs and their livelihoods to this type of technology.
We'll have to see what happens. Maria Curi from Axios, thank you so much for talking with me.
Thanks for having me.
And thanks to all of you for joining us for Marketplace Tech Bytes Week in Review. Jesus Alvarado produced this episode. I'm Stephanie Hughes. This is APM.